Take a moment to imagine you're eating your favourite chocolate bar. Picture yourself biting through the chocolatey exterior and feeling that delicious filling hit your tongue. Now imagine the same thing, but replace that delicious filling with something unexpected like raw beef or bees. Bees are always a nasty surprise. The sensation of finding out something that looks sweet on the outside but turns out to be completely different on the inside is one that is not uncommon in the world of video games. There are many titles out there that draw players in with an adorable saccharine exterior, only to reveal that they are truly the stuff of nightmares on the inside, whether through tidbits of hidden lore, shocking imagery, or just a very sudden, very extreme plot twist. Today, we'll be peeling back the layers of 10 such games and unearthing the debauched, depraved, and dark secrets lurking just underneath. Naturally, a spoiler warning is in effect for all the games you see on screen. Oh, and before we begin, don't worry, I promise there are not any bees hidden in this video. Or are there? I'm Ashton from TripleJump, and here are 10 cute games that hide dark secrets. Number 10, Spore. Space, the so-called final frontier, has long been a subject of both fascination and fear for those of us confined to the planet Earth. Creative minds have shown us visions of what horrors might lurk in the outer reaches of the universe, but they are nothing compared to the horrors you can make in Spore. As a civilization sim, Spore gives players the ability to create their own species of animal and guide the development of their technology, politics, and culture, from prehistoric roots all the way through to interstellar travel. This, of course, also includes religion. Spore contains a whole pantheon of deities to worship, and chief among them is Spode. Spode is described as a giant eye at the centre of the cosmos with tentacles that spread throughout the universe, a description eerily similar to that of the cosmic horrors depicted in the world of H.P. Lovecraft. What may be even more terrifying than this is the deity that stands against him, a mysterious being worshipped by many spacefaring races in Spore who is known only as the god that will come. There are many hints about a deeper cosmological struggle between these two unknown forces, but precious little is actually known. Sadly, there are simply some things that neither man nor man-made monstrosity was meant to know. Number 9, Splatoon. Science fiction movies have long speculated about which animal would evolve to become the dominant species after humanity is gone, usually pointing to gorillas or cockroaches. As it turns out, there may be a third contender, the humble squid. Splatoon is a team-based shooter game where you play as an inkling, a humanoid that can turn into a squid, as you compete against other teams to spray the most territory with your coloured ink. While the game's primary focus is on the multiplayer, it also includes a single-player story mode that lets players dip a toe into the game's world, which turns out to be a much deeper ocean than it looks. Through the tidbits of lore drip-fed to players, it becomes apparent that Splatoon is actually set on real-world Earth, though it takes place in the far future after all mammalian life on the planet has long since gone extinct, leaving marine animals, namely squids, to evolve into the land-dwelling dominant species we see in the game. It's further revealed that the cause of this mass extinction may have been due to a climate disaster that left the planet uninhabitable for everything that couldn't survive in the ocean. It seems a sound story, but if you ask me, the whole thing seems fishy. Number 8, PuyoPuyo. Uh-oh! Looks like we've got ourselves a wildcard entry! All of the games on this list are surprisingly dark, but seeing that the next entry is a puzzle game may have some of you raising your eyebrows. Really, you may ask, how many dark secrets can there actually be in a game about falling coloured blocks? What many may not be aware of is that the PuyoPuyo series is actually a spin-off of a much older franchise known as Sorcery Saga, which has achieved far less international success than its puzzling counterpart. Both games feature the same cast of characters, but unlike PuyoPuyo, these Sorcery Saga games are dungeon-crawling RPGs all about fighting monsters with the power of magic. And while it may look as cute as PuyoPuyo, you'll soon find that looks can be deceiving. Sorcery Saga is notorious for its sudden and rather shocking imagery, from unintentionally horrific monster designs to brutal death scenes to people's faces melting right off, no doubt leaving many an unsuspecting player with some nasty nightmares. nightmares. It's shocking to see in its original context, and even more shocking when compared to the cutesy aesthetic of PuyoPuyo. But fortunately for our dreams, none of these terrifying secrets have carried over to the spin-off series. Yet. Number 7. Aversion. It makes sense that horror games were a genre that took a while to get going. After all, how scary can something really be when it's only a few pixels in size? As it turns out, it can be rather freaky. Aversion is an interesting and unique little indie game where you play as an adorable little thing on a quest to rescue a damsel in distress. There are baddies to bounce off of, platforms to traverse, and bottomless pits aplenty. On the outside, it looks like a perfectly delightful little romp, but appearances can be deceiving. The secret lies in the game's title. The word aversion refers to the process of turning something inside out, and fittingly, at certain places in the game, your character can use that ability to alter the layout of the levels around them, turning previously impassable obstacles into new ways forward. Each time they use this ability, however, the world around them becomes more and more distorted. The backgrounds fall into decay, the enemies become more nightmarish, and terrifying new hazards threaten their life. There is still a princess in need of saving at the end of it all, but with everything you have to put up with, it might not be worth it. Number 6. The Sims 2. Simulation games are a fantastic way to find escape from our mundane lives by living out someone else's mundane life, and provides a surefire way for us to forget our troubles, right up until they start making us fear for the fate of our immortal souls, that is. The Sims are perhaps the ultimate simulation games out there, and they're known to hide more than their fair share of mysteries and conspiracies. And of them all, The Sims 2 has a reputation among fans for being by far the creepiest entry in the series. Take Olive Spectre, one of the possible NPCs that players might meet in their simulated neighbourhoods, who at first glance seems to be nothing more than an elderly widow, but at second glance, you'll notice that her backyard is full of tombstones. Digging into her past reveals that Ms. Spectre has been married and widowed more times than you can count on your fingers, despite the fact her true romantic interest is the Grim Reaper, the literal personification of death. This has led many to the non-baseless conclusion that Olive has been seducing and murdering men as a means of luring her lethal lover home for a romantic dalliance. It's not exactly the classic fairy tale romance, but if they're making it work, who are we to judge? Number 5. Stardew Valley. The other funny thing about using a simulation game as an escape from your real life is that sometimes the characters in the game itself are doing the exact same thing too, and that just makes everything a bit too real. Stardew Valley has been providing players a cozy place to live for years now, allowing them to carve out their own homestead where they can grow crops, raise animals, and even start a family. There are plenty of friendly townspeople to get to know as well, each with their own backstories, and the closer you get to them, the more they'll start to open up to you, though doing so can lead to some truly heartbreaking revelations. For example, your neighbour Kent gradually opens up about his experiences in the war, such as being kept prisoner by the enemy forces and the scars it left on his mind as well as his body. Other characters have similar struggles with drinking, depression, and reconciliations with estranged family. It goes to some rather dark places, so it's really no wonder that all of these wanted to escape their troubles in a place like Stardew Valley. Didn't anyone tell them that there's a witch in town though? Perhaps we should warn them. Number 4. Hatoful Boyfriend. Dating games come in many varieties in order to cater to all possible demographics. There are games that let you date boys, girls, dads, and even giant monsters. There's only one, however, that lets you date birds. Well, that we know of, at least. If you don't spend much time playing Hatoful Boyfriend, you'll probably think that that's all it is. Just a cute and funny little game about going on dates with various species of avians. But once you're in deep enough, it all becomes clear there's a lot more going on in this world. Once you've unlocked the game's final story route, you start to learn the truth behind its narrative, like why this high school is full of talking intelligent birds, and why you seem to be the only human around. Long story short, it's a tale that involves a deadly virus, war, dystopian governments, murder, and a terrifying scarecrow monster. Unlocking this path essentially makes Hatoful Boyfriend change genres completely, from a fluffy romantic game to a dark psychological thriller story. Though the characters do still remain as photorealistic pictures of pigeons and doves. It's true what they say, dating really is for the birds. Number 3. Echo the dolphin. Dolphins are cute, aren't they? They're the kind-hearted guardian angels of the sea, and some of the smartest animals on the planet. And as it turns out, they may be some of the smartest animals on other planets too. In Echo the Dolphin, you play as the titular aquatic mammal, who must set out on a journey across the 7 seas after his friends and family vanish in a mysterious cyclone. The adventure begins innocently enough, as Echo swims and leaps through idyllic aquatic seascapes, but it doesn't take long for things to take a turn for the strange. Echo's foes soon turn from sharks and jellyfish to bizarre, unearthly creatures as his adventure takes him beyond the oceans and millions of years into the past. By the end, it turns out that the dolphins have been spirited away to another planet to serve as food for an evil race of aliens, and Echo must free them by defeating a final boss that looks like something straight out of my nightmares after my parents mistakenly let me watch Alien as a child. Don't worry though, the scars fade with time, or so I've been told. Number 2. Pikmin. After humans are gone, what relics will remain behind to mark our time on this planet? If Pikmin games are any indication, it'll mostly just be a lot of old junk. In Pikmin, you play as Captain Olimar, a 3cm tall space pilot who finds himself stranded on a mysterious, inhospitable planet after crashing his ship. Aided by the titular plant-like creatures known as Pikmin, Olimar searches for the missing part of his ship whilst also collecting strange treasures he finds along the way. It doesn't take long to notice that these treasures are mundane, everyday objects one would see in the real world, which raises a troubling implication. If this uncharted planet is littered with all manner of, well, litter, then where are the people these objects belong to? The presence of these items, coupled with the complete absence of anyone capable of actually using them, suggests that the inhabitants of this world have all vanished. Even more alarming is the fact that one of the treasures Olimar can collect is a Geiger counter that is constantly going off, meaning the entire surface of the planet is irradiated, which paints a rather grim picture of why the planet is seemingly devoid of any human life. But hey, at least the bread bugs survived. And number 1, Kirby Star Allies. When it comes to concealing horror beneath a squishable soft outer layer, no one does it better, or as frequently, as Kirby. Nintendo's iconic pink puffball has touched on many dark topics through the years, from eldritch abominations to possible mass extinctions, but nothing was quite as extreme as what we saw in Kirby Star Allies. The adventure begins as Kirby and his friends set out to save their world from the corrupting influence of mysterious dark hearts, only for those dark hearts to eventually lead them to a confrontation with an evil priest named Highness, and that's where things get weird. Highness's rants about his evil plans are so long that the game fast forwards through them, but slowing it down reveals that Highness is the last survivor of a tribe of magic users who were wiped out following a galaxy-wide war with a clan of scientists, and that his plan was to resurrect an ancient god of evil to eradicate the universe as revenge. Battling said evil god, because there's always an evil god to fight, quickly turns downright terrifying, and even reveals some sinister connections to Kirby's own origins. Is it possible that Kirby could be an incarnation of a world-destroying dark god sealed away millennia ago amidst a bloody galaxy-wide war? Well, that would explain his appetite, so